Now I invite Dr. Maryam Golnaraghi, Chief Disaster Risk Reduction Program of the WMO, World Meteorological Organization. This statement will be followed by UNEP and then the Kokusai Kogyo Company Limited. Please, Madam, you have the floor.
Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to present our point of view in this conference. The World Meteorological Organization is the United Nations system's authoritative scientific and technical agency responsible for weather, climate, and water. The national meteorological and hydrological services of its 191 members observe, monitor, predict, and forecast weather, climate, and water-related hazards through a global operational network coordinated by the WMO. Disaster risk reduction is one of the highest priorities of WMO, as nearly 90% of disasters are linked to hydrometeorological hazards. Scientific advances in weather forecasting, combined with proactive emergency preparedness, has dramatically cut the human toll from hydrometeorological hazards. However, the economic costs have risen. WMO is expanding on scientific advances to increase the vulnerability, to reduce the vulnerability of communities to climate risk through making available accurate climate services to help countries and communities, especially the most vulnerable, adapt to increasing risks associated with hydrometeorological hazards in a changing climate. The initiative, called the Global Framework for Climate Services, is being implemented by governments with support from WMO and its partners within and outside the United Nations system. Target sectors include disaster risk reduction community, as well as food security, water resource management, and health. WMO has a major program on disaster risk reduction underpinned by HFA. This focuses on strengthening national capacities and regional cooperation to enhance weather, climate, and hydrological services to support risk analysis, early warning systems, multi-sectoral planning, and risk financing and insurance at the national level. Over the last few years, this cooperation, for example, has led to multiple initiatives for strengthening multi-hazard early warning systems in nearly 50 countries. As risk reduction measures should be informed by risk analysis, WMO is working to develop international standards and guidelines for the governments and their technical agencies for weather, climate, and hydrological hazard monitoring, and methodologies for statistical and forward-looking hazard mapping as a critical input to risk analysis. WMO is also working with member states and partners on proactive and integrated risk management policies on floods and droughts, two of the major natural hazards with highest socioeconomic impacts. Mr. President, however, this is not enough, ladies and gentlemen. We need to do a lot more. WMO recommendations on priorities for the post-2015 framework on disaster risk reduction include: 1, there is need for more integrated, multi-hazard, multi-sectoral, multi-level approach to DRR in context of the development planning. Investments in the core capacities of technical agencies, such as the National Meteorological and Hydrological Services, to support risk analysis for informed decision-making should be considered as a national priority as part of the planning and development agenda. 2, investments in development and strengthening of national early warning systems should be considered as an integral part of national risk reduction and resilience building planning with a multi-hazard, multi-sectoral, multi-level approach. Investments in these systems should consider long-term sustainability. In this regard, investments in national meteorological systems and networks, particularly in developing and least developed countries, would lead to very large benefits. 3, Roles, working arrangements, and strengthening of technical agencies should be anchored in the amended and/or new policies and legal frameworks for DRR and development. 4, strengthening of global, regional, and national partnerships and coordination between the meteorological, climatological, and hydrological communities with disaster risk reduction communities are critical to the development of science-based information to enable community action and to manage risk associated with transboundary and larger scale hazards. 5, effective coordination and leveraging of government investments and risk financing strategies with international humanitarian and development funding are critical to avoid duplication, address gaps, and ensure sustainability. 6, and last, but very importantly, strengthening of the new global partnership under the Global Framework for Climate Services and investments in continued improvement of climate science, forecasting, and climate scenario, and operationalization of this information provides unprecedented opportunity to build disaster and climate resilience and reduce socioeconomic vulnerability. Thank you very much.